Okay, hello friends. I had a question about painting the turrets. So I thought I'd make a little YouTube video about it because it's not real complex, but it's a little bit different than doing the ship skins on the hulls. The turrets are in a separate file. So what we need to do is we need to, that's not what I was wanting to show you. I wanted to show you how to get there. You click on Games, World of Warships, the Res folder, Content, Gameplay like we did last time. And we'll go into USA, and instead of going into Ship and into the Battleship or whatnot, like we did on the other tutorial to do the Iowa into the Missouri, click on the gun file. And we're going to worry about the main guns. And then if you're not sure what gun we're looking at, which actually we're not going to go into any of these gun files. We're going to go into the texture files, but we need to know what gun we're looking for. So you come into the directory. I actually had the game up. Well, it's North Carolina, and that's not the ship we're wanting to look at. We're wanting to look at the Iowa. If you remember from the last tutorial, you still see the 63 on the front of the hull there. And we want to find out what these 16-inch gun turrets are. So we'll click on this artillery. And it says main battery 406 millimeter, which means 16-inch, and it's 45 millimeter or 45 Mark 7. So that's the type we want right there. We want the 406 millimeter or 16-inch 45 Mark 7s. Now the drawback on this is that in the files they're mirrored. I wish they were segregated. What that means is we're going to paint a 63 on the top of one of these turrets in our texture files, but it's going to put a 63 on all three of these. If they'd segregate the files, you could actually have the front turret, mid turret, rear, so on. So let's minimize that. Go into textures. And we need to find, out of this big mess, we need to find the 16-inch or the 406 millimeter, except for in here they have them labeled in inches. So we need to find a 16-inch 45 Mark 7s. I just happen to know that it's, I thought it was the fourth row down, maybe it's the fifth row. Oh, here we go again. Let's see, Mark 16 twin. I had already found this file once. This is kind of irritating. 45 Mark 6A's, that's not it. That's actually what's on the North Carolina. Here we go, right here. 16-inch Mark 7s. And actually, they tell you that they're the 45s, but they don't have a 45 file. They have a 50 file, which is an upgrade, but they basically have the same gun. So in this application, they actually have this file for two different sets of guns, because the guns don't look any different. They just have a little performance file. So we want to copy this. We'll just minimize that. And I want to go into Iowa Originals. Make a copy of that. Shut that down. Go into Iowa EBA. Make a copy. I want to delete that one, because that's a new. Okay, now what else I want to do is I want to go back into here. I also want to get this dead, that says a dead file, because they actually have a picture. This is what it looks like when your ship's getting damaged and stuff, which ain't a big deal. But what happens is you have a nice big white 63 on here, and then when you're playing the game, and the ship gets damaged, all of a sudden that number is going to disappear. So we're going to copy this one. And again, we're going to come into originals and we're going to make a copy of those. And then that way, if we ever want to change it back, it'd be real easy to do that. Okay, so we have an originals folder, and we also have a an Iowa folder, which is what we're going to use. So I need to go into DDS converter, add. I'm in my desktop. I'm not sure which folder this is. That's the original. We want to go into the Iowa BB, not the original. And we want to load this up. Convert it. Okay. And you can either shut this down and go back into it, or you can... Okay, and we want to convert this one. Okay, so we should have, in our Iowa folder, we should have 4 pictures. There we go. We have a JPEG and a DDS of both of these pictures, because we're wanting to use the JPEG. Let's shut that down, go into GIMP, and I already had GIMP open, and we don't want this picture. I actually put that on the wrong turret, so we want to discard changes. I don't need that. File, open, desktop, Iowa, and this is kind of funny. In this case, it's showing me the 3 JPEG images that are in this file. And this is the first one we want to load. Okay, now you notice the top of this turret and this JPEG is sideways. It's pointing east instead of north. So there's 2 different approaches we can do to this. We could actually rotate this picture and then paint what we're wanting to paint on it, or we can leave it like this and we can put our numbers on it and rotate them, which is what I'm going to do. So we'll go over to the text tool, and one of the things I want to show you in GIMP, which is probably Photoshop the same way, there's whole bunches of different options in here, and you can scroll through them to see what they look like. To just make this simple, we're just going to go with the sans bold, or the sans bold italic. And I'm going to put this at 150. And I'm messing up what I do want to do. Oh, the color, did I leave it white? Yeah, it looks pink. I don't want pink. Which actually, it's a light pink. It actually probably wouldn't look all that bad, but we're going to go to white. Okay. And we're going to type a 6. Maybe I don't want italic. Let's just go with sans bold. That's a little better. 6 and a 3. Whoops, I don't know what that was about. It always does that to me. Okay. Let's zoom out. I'll delete that layer. I'll try this again. Let's go to about 170. Okay, 6 and a 3. And that made that one object. You could actually type them separate and mess with them on your layers, or if you wanted to spread them out. And I'm good with that. Let's move this. This might look too big on the ship, but like I said, for illustrative purposes, just want to show you how to do this. And we want to rotate it 45 degrees. Actually 90. And you could actually even type that in. See how I got it just a little bit. That's too much. We want to come back. We want to come to 90. And it might not come exactly to 90. And it didn't. So I thought you could type that in right here. Reset. And I must be thinking of Blender. Usually you can just type in your... Yeah. Usually you can just type in your values. There, we got a... If I would have started it out... Oops. You know, we want to go to 90. That's right. Okay... 1, 0, right there. Click rotate. Now I got a 90-degree angle. So I rotated this. Like I said, the other way you could actually rotate this whole picture 90 degrees, and that's not exactly where we want it. We want it somewhat centered, and I think we want it somewhat forward. Yeah, right about there. That looks pretty good. Sometimes you gotta really eyeball stuff on here. And then one of the tricks I use is that I can add a new layer. Okay, they got rid of them little yellow lines because you don't want them little yellow lines in the picture. But I haven't actually merged this number down on top of this picture. But if I save it like this, it's going to save it just like if it was merged and stuff. Which sometimes that's all you need to do, unless you want to save the picture permanently. So let's save this. Save as JPG. And it says you can't do that. But actually you can export, and then we want this same JPEG, replace it, export it. Now I would actually need to do this. What I can do is I can say open as layers, and then I can bring in this dead picture. Notice it covered everything else up. And the reason it covered everything else up is because we put it on top of, we opened it up on top of this. Now if I take this picture right here, and I scroll down, look at there. Because I got this over the top. I got this over the top of the picture that I just had. And again, like I said, if I wanted to view this and then I want to change it and whatnot, then I could just leave this and do all that and resave it. So let's take this and go save as. And again, it wants to go to XCF, which is kind of irritating to me, but that's okay. I can deal with it. And go save. Actually, this is not. We'll go to export, and we'll go to desktop, Iowa. I actually want to save this. I need to change this file name. I need to write dead right after Mark 7 underline. I need to type DEAD because we don't want to save it on top of the other one. Then underline. So, and now if we click on this, it says, hey, it's already named it. Replace it. Yes. Export. Okay, so let's minimize this. Let's go into Iowa. So you notice our DDSs, which is actually your original pictures, are the same as they used to be. They're still the originals, like I have the original files, but our JPEGs have our numbers on them. And like I said, where this is important is if you forgot something, you can go back in here, you can jump back into GIMP, and say, okay, that's cool, except I think I also want to come back in here and go down to about, let's try 30. Still got it on white. And let's go, let's type, put it in cap locks, Missouri. And that's a little bit too big still. So we're going to make that about 20. Okay. And we're going to move it. And we're going to rotate that. Except for this time, we're just going to do it. Oops, I don't want to go 100. Hold it too long, it goes really fast. Like that, that's closer. $90 and rotate. Okay, so we took the little Missouri name there, and we're going to move it. And you can, I'm actually using the scroll keys to move it manually and center it. So let's put Missouri right there. Okay. Let's save this as JPG. And they clean my mouse. Okay, let's go desktop. And replace that once more. Again, export. And now we want to take this and move it up. And save it. Except for we want to get rid of the dead and the underscore. Save, export. And it's not wanting to go to the file. Okay. Replace that one, export. Alrighty. Now, we'll go in here and we should have, if you notice it's kind of small, we can blow it up. Actually, you actually have the little name in there. So we said, hey, yeah, we want to go ahead and throw the name in there. So we did that. And we have it in the damage file too. Like I said, what you wouldn't see, you would see it in the game if you were actually looking at the outside of the ship after you got hit. Then that way you still have the paint on there, which is kind of funny because you could also put some smudgy black and stuff over it too. Otherwise you got this tore up turret with this nice fresh paint on here. Yeah, this is one thing we do on aircraft in War Thunder. when you make damage files and stuff, because otherwise what happens is you're flying, you got a nice pretty skin and you're flying along, and as soon as they start shooting your airplane, if you don't make a matching damage file, then it reverts to if you painted a P-51 silver and it was actually green, then as soon as they shoot it, the damaged area of the aircraft starts turning green. Alright, let's minimize that. Let's go into paint.net. Open the file, and it's taking this to the wrong place. It was already in there. So we want to bring this one in here, and we want to save it, save as, and we want to change that to a DDS, which if you notice it ignored the the JPEG files as soon as I clicked it on to converting it to a DDS, so it took us to these. So we want to click on this one. It says that already exists. You want to replace it? Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, if you shut that off, go into here. You notice that your DDS converted to look like your JPEG. That's why I can't stress enough. If it's a good thing to save originals. So if you needed to change it back, you wouldn't have to try to color this in and stuff. You could actually do that. Take that back down, go back into paint.net, file, open. Now this time, we want the damage file. We want to save it as direct draw surface. Save it as this one, replace it, yes. Okay. Shut that off. Now if we go into our Iowa files, they all look the same. We have 2 DDS files and 2 JPEG files. Now if you want, you could save these JPEG files if you wanted, and then that way you wouldn't have to convert them. If you wanted to add something else, you could just throw them back into GIMP and you could modify them. Or if you're pretty sure you're done with them, you could actually delete these JPEG files and just have these DDSs. I just tend to save them all unless I'm really sure I'm done with them and stuff like that. I'm happy with them, or I don't think I'm going to change anything. Then actually I could delete this whole file. Okay, now the trick here is we take this DDS and go. We can either drag and drop it, which you don't want to do that. You just copy it, minimize that, go back into the texture files. And if you notice, I actually have the damaged one highlighted, which it doesn't really matter which one's highlighted. Then we go to copy this, we paste it, and it's going to say, hey dude, there's a file in there, same name. So we're going to replace it. Now if you notice, our replaced file, we overwrote that file. It has your number and your little Missouri name. Okay, minimize that again. Okay, we want the DDS file for the damage file. Copy. Go back into our textures. Go to paste. Again, it screams. It should always tell you want to replace it, otherwise you have something not wrote right if it just throws in the file and it doesn't replace it. If you notice, now our main file and our damage file have those alterations we've done. We should be able to shut this down now. Let's see, let's close those. And let's go in the game. Now if you notice, the alterations didn't take place on the ship, but that's because we already had the ship in the port. So we need to go out onto a different ship, go back into the tech tree, go into Iowa. Oopsie. Clicked on the wrong ship. Now, if you notice, it says Missouri and it says 63. And that Missouri's kind of small. You can probably see it better in the game, but seeing how this UV map was mirrored, it puts that number on all 3 turrets. If they had segregated the files, if they actually had a file that said front turret, to tell it to put it on the model as the front turret, and the mid turret, and the rear turret, then you could actually do that to 1 turret. But since they're mirrored in this game, if you want to make an alteration like that, then it ends up being on all 3 turrets. And it doesn't really look too bad. It kind of looks goofy if you're a history buff, because on the real ship they only actually had it on, I think, the front turret, and then I think they had an American flag on top of this one, and they didn't have anything on the back. Or on the back, they might actually would take and have that 63 facing the other direction to 4. And I know I'm a little long-winded, but I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope it helps you out if you want to alter the turrets. Peace out. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe please, and or follow along, and I'll do some more tutorials. Thank you very much.